I was just really impressed by what I was seeing. It's rare that I will watch something and really get excited about it at this point in my career. It's like, oh, I'm seeing something from a guy that I haven't seen before. A big dynamic that happened in the last two games that Jamal Murray played was he had 16 and 17 assists. And so, Dan, I thought this was pretty interesting in light of some of the discussions that we've had, because you and I haven't really seen him as that sort of an initiator prior to this point.
And it's a different I brought up the idea in the intro of like this is a different lens because when Jokic is not available at all, that is a different overall calculation than Jokic not being on the floor, but being in the game, being available, that sort of stuff. And so that is really encouraging for Jamal Murray for the season now, and fueled by these games, of course. He has the highest assist per 36 of his career, and that should continue to grow with more games without Jokic there. And encouragingly also, highest assist per 36 of his career, but also not a significantly higher turnover rate. So this is going to be a really good window into what a Jamal Murray led team could be, which we just haven't really gotten due to Jokic's remarkable durability.
Yeah, it's worth noting too that they're pretty limited, obviously, not only with Jokic being out, but they don't have a lot of shooting, and they really don't have any other ball handlers either. And I think the Nets game when Murray did have 16 assists, the Nets largely controlled that one in part because Denver couldn't stop anybody, but more so because Brooklyn is one of the highest pressuring teams in the league, and while Denver is particularly given Jamal Murray's huge role now, doesn't want him facing that kind of pressure. He's not going to blow by guys in the backcourt. He's been vulnerable to that. We saw back in that playoff series against Minnesota in 2024, for example. And you don't want him getting tired out bringing the ball up, but they don't really have anyone else to do that. Bruce Brown really is just not the same player that he was. Christian Brown isn't really going to do that. Maybe you don't want to give that to Aaron Gordon. That's how he hurt his hamstring, was trying to bring the ball up in the past. Peyton Watson, maybe he could do it, but and Jalen Pickett is probably not going to start alongside Murray in some of these lineups. So and Pickett also is vulnerable to the same thing. He's kind of a bring it up back to goal kind of guys. They don't have anyone who's just going to get the pressure off by blowing by guys in the backcourt. And the Nets, it was a perfect example for the Nets of what they wanted to do in that game. And then though they started really double teaming a lot as well on Murray because they felt like getting the ball out of his hands would be useful. And as I started watching the film, I watched Boston first, but then Brooklyn. We'll start with Brooklyn. Is I was just really impressed by what I was seeing. It's rare that I will watch something and really get excited about it at this point in my career. It's like, oh, I'm seeing something from a guy that I haven't seen before. And some of these passes were really great. I mean, I would say he started to get the feel of these games because Boston kind of did the same thing of trying to blitz him more as well, particularly if he got into a more uh, advantageous matchup. So part of what Denver is trying to do now is using Murray as the screener, getting a smaller player onto him, then getting him into the short post with a live dribble. I shouldn't say short post, but like a maybe 18-foot area with a live dribble where he can ISO, and then their teams are usually double teaming him out of that. And some of the passes that he's thrown out of that action have been awesome, where he stays on the ball, takes a couple of dribbles, but he's not doing the dribble backwards and then throw it over two sets of hands move. He'll actually try to attack off of those plays, get those double team guys moving, and that then creates a passing angle for him, tilts the defense. He had a couple of great passes to Zeke Naji, ducking in like almost Jokic like, to where he wasn't really open if you just draw an X next to the O, but Najee kind of had inside position and Murray just found it right inside. It was really quite excellent. He had a couple of blow-bys and laydowns for Aaron Gordon. He's got this signature pass now, which he's been doing before, where he'll get up in the air and then throw a backhanded bounce pass across the lane to a guy for a dunk on the other side as he's in the air and he's gotten the defense committee. He can do that with both his right and his left hand. He's done that in the last couple of games. So I was really impressed by what Murray was able to do. Now, in the Boston game, Denver was 7 of 14 at the rim. 6 of those were assisted, and 4 of them were by Murray. So the Boston strategy was we're going to make Denver shoot the ball, and they did. Murray had 10 of his assists on 3-pointers, but I thought he did a great job using his size to find skip passes to the weak side. Another play where he drove along the baseline against the double team, help came over, then he was able to throw it to the top. That's always a tough pass going along the baseline, throwing it to the top because it's not really with your momentum. And so he was setting up a ton of threes in the Boston game. That's what they were giving up. He was taking advantage of that. And then against Brooklyn, he had 16 assists, and 12 of those assists were for baskets at the rim. I mean, that is a
Wow.
crazy number to assist at the rim. And because I thought what it was going to be is like, okay, they're double teaming him and he's just going to throw it to a shooter. That guy's going to shoot it. It's not going to be that impressive. But no, he actually was really making plays for his teammates. And again, I think what I liked the most was his patience against the double team. And, he'll turn it over every once in a while, but to not be forced out of being aggressive by a double team, to continue to stay on the ball, take a couple of dribbles, force the defense 4-on-3. Something's going to come open, particularly if it's something at the rim, and to keep his momentum moving forward against the double team. And then that way, then you can throw passes to somebody under the rim. Whereas if you're backing up, it's really hard to throw that. It's probably going to get picked off. So I was just really impressed by what I saw from Murray, and maybe teams will have to adjust a little bit and not be as aggressive against him because of this passing that he's shown. Now, worth noting that Brooklyn won that game fairly easily still, but again, I think that was more of a defensive issue for the Nuggets. So really liking what I'm seeing from Murray. This is, I would say, the best stretch of his career without Jokic on the floor. There haven't been many of them to where he really has looked like someone who can be the leader of an offense in a way that we've long criticized him for because he just hasn't been effective in that role.
And it's going to be a notable stretch for the Nuggets because they're what they have remaining. They've had a couple good wins, they've had a couple rough losses. Is that they play mostly home games against mostly like okay teams, and so that's the type of thing that if Jamal Murray's playing well, if they could get some of these guys, they can maybe make some headway, maybe keep their standing closer than they would have before. So they have 2 games in the rest of January against the Bucks, 2 against the Wizards, and then they also have New Orleans, Dallas, Charlotte, the Lakers. That's the kind of the main crux of their upcoming schedule. And almost all of those games are at home. They have 3 on the road in the next little bit. Most of them are at home. And so, and they aren't, those classic pressuring teams. You've heard the Bucks in this, you heard the Wizards. Like those aren't defensive pressure teams. So it'll be very interesting to see how Jamal Murray can fare.
Yeah, and Aaron Gordon is still coming off the bench. Seems like he's on about a 25-minute limit, and their number one goal, of course, is to get him to the playoffs whole as well, with all the muscle injuries that he's dealt with, the repeated calf strains last year, the hamstring in the playoffs, this hamstring as well that kept him out for more than a month. But Gordon and Murray, they don't want to. Also, David Adelman said, "I don't want to play Aaron Gordon at center," so it's been a lot of Najee, who Najee's had some decent moments. Like maybe he can emerge again in extended playing time. The other thing that always killed Najee was just he would always start to play well and then just get hurt. That wasn't really the case the last couple of years, but early in his career, it looked like he could contribute more. Jaron Holmes, yeah, basically all we've seen from him is just being able to shoot the ball. A couple of those Murray assists were for him on pretty decent footwork plays by Holmes, where he had to retreat into the corner off of a pick and roll and was able to drain it. So that at least provides an element. But Holmes just is not big enough to play center, not physical enough, not very good on the boards as well. Like he's going to need to show more as an inside player to really, I think, emerge as a positive rotation piece. But he's going to just play, and so is Najee. But their most effective offense to me is actually now the Murray Gordon pick and roll, which we've seen little of over the years. But Murray had a number of assists to Gordon, where Gordon is, if he can get out in space moving towards the basket, still can be a very effective finisher. We haven't really seen him in that role too much. So this is going to be fascinating for Denver. Hopefully they won't get any more injuries. But like you said, there's an opportunity for them here. Like this is kind of right on the borderline. All these games could go either way, and that may eventually determine their fate in terms of the seeding. Also, Murray, I think, has missed already 2 of these games, one for rest and now the illness. So they're going to try not to run him into the ground either.